Hey, what's up world? Thanks for joining me today. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through writing a brand new pop song using your Pocket Operator PO-20 from start to finish. I'm going to show you exactly what buttons to push, what dials to turn, and if you follow these instructions by the end of this video, you're going to have a brand new original song. So what I'm going to show you today is like the skeleton of a song. It's the most basic, simplest, rudimentary stuff that you need. And from there you can kind of spin things around, put your own little creative take on the song. Realistically, you want to add your own individual flavor. So what I'm going to show you is something real simple. You can put in all the complexity you want. You can make it even simpler if you want to add other instruments on top. There's literally millions, if not more, different possibilities that you can come up with. So what I really want you to do is just get creative with it. Okay, so first off, real basic stuff. You're going to want to grab a sheet of paper to take notes on. You're going to need this to kind of just keep track of where everything is. And trust me, the more complex your song gets, the more you're going to want to write stuff down. Next off, let's start by deleting the preset data that's stored under pattern 1. You can do this by holding down the button pattern and pushing 1. This will cause all 16 lights to turn on, but only the light above the number 1 will be flashing. With this pattern selected, you can now clear it by holding chord, then push the pattern button. This pattern is now completely empty, so you have a blank slate to work with. The other thing to worry about is tempo, but we're not going to worry about that until the very end. For right now, it's okay to just use one of the preset tempos. You can push the BPM button until you see the word disco appear in the top left. In the disco setting, we're going at 100 beats per minute. This will give you a naturally lively, upbeat feel to your song. But again, at the very end, we can tweak this a little bit. I tend to think about writing pop songs on the Pocket Operator as having 4 main components that you want to concern yourself with. First, chord progressions. Second, we have percussion. Third, you can think about song structure. And finally, we have tempo. Many songs, including the songs that I've written with the Pocket Operator, start with a chord progression and then build from there. The chord progressions really give the song some direction. Where does it start? Where does it pass through? And where does it end up? You can think about the chord progression as being the flow of the song. And if you're not too familiar with music theory, that's okay. One of the great advantages of the PO-20 is that it takes a lot of the hard work out of the music theory aspect of stuff and really simplifies it. It makes everything fit really easily. With the PO-20, there's 16 default chords that you can use. And they're written here at the very bottom of the paper manual that came with your synth. But if you've lost this manual, screenshot this right now. This might be the most important bit of information that's included in the manual. What you'll notice is that most of these chords are really good for writing songs in C major or in A minor, and maybe you'll be able to get away with some stuff in G major. But outside of these key signatures, there's not too much flexibility with this instrument. So many pop songs use a very common chord progression. This common chord progression that I'm going to show you today is called the 1-5-6-4. This is the ultimate pop music chord progression. Entire parody songs have been written about how all pop songs use this progression. From old school stuff like the Beatles and John Denver, Torn by Natalie Imbruglia, Closing Time by Semisonic, When I Come Around by Green Day, so many songs use this chord progression. Now with the PO-20's built-in chords, you can write this progression in C major. To do this, hold down the chord button and push the following numbers: 15, 6, 9, and 5. After each chord has been programmed, the light will turn on above that number, and you'll see the letter L and a number increase for each chord logged. I like to write down this chord progression as well as the corresponding button presses. And in this example 4-chord song, it's fairly straightforward, but when you start writing more complicated songs with different chord progressions, with a pre-chorus and a chorus section, you might be using different chord progressions. And you'll want to write that stuff down. If this generic chord progression is just too cookie cutter for you, here are a couple other common chord progressions you can try playing around with. Try 1, 6, 4, 5, meaning you'll do 15, 9, 5, 6, or a 1, 4, 5, which might be something like 15, 15, 5, 6, if your song's in C major, or 6, 6, 15, 16 for a song in G major. Okay, now once you hit the play button, it'll cycle through the chords C, G, A minor, and F. But you don't hear anything? That's because we haven't programmed any sounds yet. So the first step is to write some sounds that will lay down the foundational chords. These notes will sort of function like the guitar or the keys in a traditional pop song. In my opinion, you'll want to use the sounds mapped to the buttons 9, 10, 11, and 12. These are different types of arpeggios. Some of them are just a little bit longer than others. Some of them have different qualities. Now, to add these notes to our song, hold sound and click the one that you like best. Now, you're going to click the right button in the bottom right, and you'll see this little icon appear on the bottom left of your screen. Right now, none of these lights will be on, so just click on where you want these arpeggios to show up in a song. Play around with a few different patterns. Today, I'm going to go with this pattern. Now, push right to turn off write mode. The right symbol should disappear. Push play to stop playback, then hit it again to start. Your chord progression will now play from the beginning, given the arpeggios that you wrote. With the chords done, let's move on to the next aspect of writing a song with a pocket operator, the percussion. Now when it comes to percussion, many pop songs use the same schema. The bass kick is on the 1 and the 3, the snare is on the 2 and the 4, and the hi-hats are on the ands in between each count. Now, if you want to program these drums into the pocket operator, start with the bass and the kick, which are on buttons 1 and 2. Hold sound, push 1 to toggle the bass. Now, turn on write mode, then push buttons 1 and 9. This will put the bass on the 1, the 3 of the music. Repeat the process for the kick. So hold sound, push 2, then release sound. With write mode still on, push buttons 1 and 9. The snare in chiptune is usually on the noise track, which is sound 8. Hold sound, push 8, now release the button. Now with write mode on, push the 5 and 13, which is going to add the snare onto the 2 and the 4. Lastly, you'll be adding the hi-hats, which is sound 4. Hold sound, push 4, then release sound. To add in the hi-hats, with write mode still on, click on different beats. Consider putting the hats on every odd number, which is the equivalent of where the hats might go in a typical pop song. Alternatively, try some variations here, like adding maybe extra hats on the last count like this. Experiment with these instruments to see what you like best. Okay, now you have your basic percussion, let's start thinking about song structure. Now when we're thinking about structure, mostly we're going to play with the pattern button. Many pop songs follow a formula that looks a little bit like this. I really like writing stuff down on a sheet of paper at this point so that I don't get things confused. Okay, so that percussion that you just wrote, we're going to use that for the verse. All the stuff we just programmed into pattern 1, so let's make a copy of pattern 1 and move it over to pattern 4. To do this, make sure the write mode is off and playback is off. Hold down the pattern button and you should see everything light up. Pattern 1 should be blinking. Now, with the pattern button still held down, push the right button, then number 4. The pattern at this point will be copied into pattern 4, and this is also the active pattern that you're working with. Let's go back to pattern 1 to work on the intro. Hold down pattern and push 1. Now the light above 1 should be blinking. For the first pattern of the intro, we'll take away all the percussion. You can turn on playback mode here so that you can hear and see which instruments are still turned on. During playback, there are two sets of lights to keep an eye on. First, you have the series of moving lights which goes from 1 to 16. This gives us timing information. When it hits 16, it'll loop back to the beginning of the pattern and then move to the next chord that you pre-programmed earlier. The other set of lights that blink on and off are the instruments that are being played at each given moment. So you can see that whenever the bass is being played, the light above 1 lights up. Whenever the hats are being played, the light above 4 lights up, and so on. This is helpful when we are removing the percussion from the introduction, so we can see what instruments are still there. Start to remove the percussion by holding sound and selecting 1, then pushing right. Now the right mode should be activated. You will see that the light above 1 and 9 are lit up, so push those two buttons to turn the bass off. Repeat this process for the bass kick, the snare, and the hi-hats. Now we're going to add the bass into pattern 2. Hold pattern, then push 2. The light above 2 should now be blinking quickly. Bring the bass back in by selecting sound, clicking 1 and 9 while right mode is still on. Here, go ahead and add the kick, so select sound 2, then click 1 and 9 as well. Now for pattern 3, let's go ahead and bring in the snare. Hold pattern, click 3, select sound 8, and drop it onto 5 and 13. For the hi-hats in pattern 3, we're going to do something a little different. While still here, hold sound and push 4 to activate the hi-hats. We're going to add the hats in sparingly, which will be sort of the lead into the full pattern on pattern 4. Now we have our intro section written. To preview our intro in addition to the first verse, hold down pattern and push the following buttons in sequence. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 4, 4. This will now give us 4 counts of the intro, 4 counts of the first verse. And it's going to sound a little something like this. The other section you'll want to write is now the chorus. Let's put the chorus in pattern 5. So copy pattern 4 into pattern 5. Now that we're on pattern 5, mess around with the percussion. Add some bass kicks, add some snares to make the chorus more upbeat. You could take them away to draw more attention to other instruments. Or you can just mix up the patterns a little bit to add some variety. At this point, you'll want to write down the order of the pattern so that you remember what is verse and what is chorus. Okay, consider doing something like intro, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus. And that might give you a complete song. Now you'll want to set the instrument to play the entire song from start to finish. Hold down pattern and push the buttons in order. You can store up to 128 patterns in this manner. Okay, this is the last thing to think about, tempo. And there's 2 things that are possible using the PO-20. Tempo and swing. Hold down the BPM button and dial the right knob to change tempo. Tweak this just a little bit to find a tempo that most appropriately fits your song. The swing is another aspect of tempo that you can also play with. Hold down BPM and turn the left knob to increase or decrease the swing. At 0, there's no swing at all. At higher numbers, the swing becomes significantly more apparent. You'll only be able to notice the swing if you program sounds on the even counts. So in this example, you can hear it in the hi-hats at the end of the pattern. So, congratulations! You've written your first official chiptune pop backing track using the Pocket Operator PO-20. Let's go ahead and give it a listen. It might sound something like this. I hope this tutorial and walkthrough has been helpful. Please hit like and comment below if there was any aspect of this little wonder synth that you learned about. I'd love to hear the music you come up with using this knowledge, so feel free to drop a link below. I'm happy to check out your channel. Finally, make sure to subscribe to hear more original Pocket Operator music, some covers, other instrumental stuff, and more music production tutorials and guides. Love you all, and thank you for joining me today.